Hi guys, thanks for coming on. The numbers are rising now. So while we're waiting for everyone to join, why don't you put in the chat how you're feeling? The exam's coming up. How are you guys feeling? Nervous, terrified. It's gonna be okay. This is really gonna help you guys, don't worry. Yeah. Yeah, thank you guys for joining. Okay, so we're gonna start easing on into it. So yeah. So this is the first night of Fiveable crams. This is May 10th, and we're gonna be going from May 10th to the 14th. So we have some community agreements we need to go over first. So first of all, be supportive. We have to lift each other up. We got to work together. We're all in this boat together. We're gonna help each other out. We're gonna be patient. We have 5 nights together. We will cover everything. Don't worry. That's what we're breaking down in these 5 nights. And also be kind. We're all real people. We all have emotions, and we all want you guys to do well. So just be kind to us, be kind to each other, and we're gonna do great. And then how to make the most of a cram finale. So you can take notes, but like don't write everything down. Make sure you're still listening. You can do like some active learning maybe. So notes are just reminders, key things. Like if there's something in the chat that makes you remember something, just like write that down. Cram Hub. So that's where you're going to see all the slides, the review packet, and replays for you. So don't worry if you like feel like you're falling behind in your notes. There are replays. And then the group chat. This is for sharing tips and tricks and when to participate when we ask questions. And please be kind in the group chat. And then the Q&A tab. This is where you guys should be putting your questions. We have a wonderful host checking this, and they will be answering your questions. So just make sure to type your questions in the Q&A. And we will take breaks, and the replays will be available immediately after, so don't worry. So then this is our cram schedule. So we're going to go through the days first, and then I'll introduce you to our hosts. So our first day today, May 10th, this is units 1 and 2. And then tomorrow is May 11th. So we're going units 3 and 4. And then so on, we're going to do 2 units every night until the night before, which is unit 9 and the finale. So I'm Miriam. I'm going to be doing unit 1, and I'll also be doing the finale. And then
Hi everyone, I'm Avery. I'm repping my Fiveable merch right now. I don't think you can buy that, but anyway, I'm helping with units 8 and 9, so you'll see me on these last 2 days. And my experience with world history is that I took it actually for 2 years because my school has this weird thing where you like conjoin it with literature. So that's my experience with world history, and I'm super duper excited to help you guys with Cold War and colonization or decolonization stuff.
Hi everyone, my name is Mia. I'm a junior in high school and I took AP World History last year. If you can't tell, I'm the biggest AP World History fan. I'm super excited to be teaching units 2 and 7. So yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Andy. I'm a senior. I took AP World History last year and I really enjoyed the class. I'll be covering units 3 and 5, so you'll see me presenting tomorrow and the next day. Super excited to be working with everyone.
Hey guys, my name's Hamza. I'm a junior in high school. I took AP World last year, and I just have to say, like, I'm so excited. Like this is like the first cram night. I'm like so over the moon.
And then my name is Mr. Leonard. I have the pleasure of being the teacher host for this next few days. I'm really excited. I was able to go and do the AP World History reading last year, which was a great time. And excited to pass on that knowledge to you guys tonight and over the next few nights. So thank you guys for coming.
okay, so we're gonna get right into it. So first, this is unit 1, guys. Are you excited? Okay, so the global tapestry. So this is from the years 1200 to 1450. This is 8 to 10% of your exam. And honestly, I love this unit, guys. It's the reason I'm teaching it. And this is like a world tour, you can think of it. So we're just going to be looking at every little part that's happening and how everything's forming so far. And then you're going to see that develop in the further units. So this is called the yellow period. So you may be wondering why the yellow period. So the yellow period is symbolizing the golden ages of Islam and the sands of the Silk Road and trade routes. So what color is sand? You can think of it as gold, maybe. So first we got to contextualize unit 1. So states are beginning to look outwards. We're seeing the beginning of like formation of trade routes. You can think Silk Road, and then we're going to see like water trade. And then the fall of Rome is leading to the medieval era in Europe. So Europe's kind of going to a dark time right now, but we're not focusing, well, we'll touch on Europe, but we're focusing a lot on like outside of Europe. And then the China is continuing the dynastic system, so Song Dynasty, yay, and the tribute system with nearby states. And the Americas are remaining mostly isolated, but they are forming unique societies, cultures, and trade. So we're not going to be seeing them that much, but they are still developing, so don't forget about them. So we're going to hop right into it to East Asia. So we're looking at developments in East Asia. So the Song Dynasty, I don't know about you guys, but this is like my favorite part. So there's agricultural innovation. So we're seeing champa rice from the Champa Kingdom. Champa rice is just like it's pretty big grain that was grown. And then the tribute system is where people would just give money to the dynasty to just like pay their way to live there, you could think of it. And then we're seeing an innovation in commerce, so paper money, Grand Canal. So increasing trade is spreading culture because what happens when you trade, you meet new people, you're talking to new people. And then paper money, this is like a unionization of commerce, you could think. So if everyone's paying in paper money, it's going to be easier to have fair deals. And then we're going to see technological innovations. So gunpowder, fireworks battle, and the compass. Gunpowder, this is a big thing in the further units. And then the compass is going to be really helping with navigation. So the Song Dynasty, let's look at their ideals. So we have Neo-Confucianism. So reality is hierarchical. So there's stages in society that are set. And this is helping the Song Dynasty to flourish. And then there's also the idea of a justified rule of the dynasty. So you could see this through art or maybe religion. It's basically saying that like I am the greatest, so I deserve to rule. And then we're seeing it inspire unity. So if everyone's unified, what do we want to do? We want to grow, we want to get better. So Buddhism is spreading. So the song is greatly influenced by Buddhism. And the main Buddhism they practice is Mahayana Buddhism. This is like the real self Buddhism. There's two types. And then it's primarily being spread by merchants. So merchants they're the ones mainly doing the trading. They're the ones talking to everyone. So what they're spreading is going to be pretty influential in these units. And then we have the civil service exam. This is like a test, and it's based off the Neo-Confucianism idea. So we're looking at hierarchy, and it's giving everyone a slim shot to rise in society. The reason why slim is in parentheses right there is because while everyone has the chance to take the exam, not everyone's gonna do too well on it because you have to be pretty well educated to pass the exam. And also, if you're in the lower classes, you're going to be working because it's going to be really hard to study when you're working all the time. And if you pass it, you're going to become part of the Song bureaucracy, which is basically just the form of government for the Song dynasty. So now I have a question for you guys. I'm going to give you guys 40 seconds to answer in the chat. Do you understand the influences on the Song dynasty? So just feel free to type in the chat. And if you guys want to put in a little example, like what influence do you see? Neo-Confucianism justified rule, yeah. Buddhism, yes. Religion, exactly. These are really good answers. Yes, filial piety, we're going to get into that, but nice remembering. The civil service exam, yeah. So we're seeing a lot of structure that's happening. So then, like someone mentioned, we're going to get to that part though. So this is the hierarchy of ancient China. So we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. So we have merchants. So the merchant class is the lowest because they make money from other things. You're going to be seeing a theme as we go up. The craftspeople, they're making goods from other materials. So they're not entirely like, they can't just support themselves by themselves. So the peasants, they're creating their own crops and they're sustaining themselves. So they don't have to depend on anyone. And then the gentry, these are the wealthy. These are the people who pass the civil service exam. They're part of the Song bureaucracy. And then we're seeing the emperor who's leading the empire. So the common theme, like as you get higher, is that if you can make it on your by yourself, you are moving up in the class. So peasants, they don't rely on anyone. So that's why they're going to be higher than merchants. And then we have the new Confucian ideal of filial piety. It's basically just respecting one's ancestors and parents. So just respecting the elderly, you know, it's sometimes a theme here. So we're seeing a continuity of that now too. Okay, so now we're just going to go straight on into it to Korea. So we're going to the Goryeo dynasty. So this dynasty is lasting from 918 to 1392. So this is a massive unification of Korean peninsula and the centralization of government. If you notice, centralization is underlined, so that's a big theme that's happening. Period of intense religious passion of Buddhism. So we're seeing Buddhism again. Buddhism is like the main religion of this time period, if you think of it. And then it's the invention of the first movable type. So we're seeing more inventions, more emphasis on thought. And then we're seeing culture. So here is a Korean celadon. You're just seeing formation of culture and centralization of government. That's basically what this slide is saying to you. And we're seeing a lot of religious passion in Buddhism. So now we're going to hop right into the transformation in Dar al-Islam. So what's going on in Islam? So the Islamic caliphates. So we're seeing a rise and fall. So the Abbasid science, they built the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, and they made advancements in math. So Nasir al-Din al-Tusi, he's the man who made all this advancement. So if you guys like math, you can thank this. And then we're also seeing a fall or like a decline in the fact that there's internal struggles due to the Sunni Shia conflicts. Sunni and Shia are different sects in Islam, and they're just having a lot of disagreements over certain viewpoints. So it's always hard to unify when you're having internal struggles. And then the Mongols, yes, the Mongols are overrunning the Islamic Empire. So I'm just gonna, yeah, here we have a little question. If you guys could type the answer into the chat. Where did the Islamic caliphates reach success and experience failure? So feel free to type that in the chat. I'll give you 40 seconds. Yep, success in science, math. Medicine, yeah. Trig. Yeah, you're seeing a lot of failure in the fact that they're having internal struggles, divisions, yes. Okay, nice. So the next slide. So we're seeing Nasir al-Din al-Tusi again. So he's notable for his developments in mathematics. And then we're seeing in Baghdad, the House of Wisdom. The House of Wisdom is the center of innovation for mathematics and medicine. It's where like people would travel to come to the House of Wisdom so they could like talk and write and create new ideas and new inventions and new like forms of thought. So if you were smart and you wanted to like make a big contribution, the House of Wisdom is where you want it to be. And then you're also seeing the translation and preservation of Greek and Roman texts. So this is really important because they're just maintaining history. It's like what we're studying now, they're maintaining it. And they really valued the idea of education and making sure you understand the past. Yeah, and I like this little meme, the Dark Ages and then the Islamic Golden Age happening at the same time. So it's really showing how different the world can be and how it's just, I really like this unit. It's just like a little world tour. And then there's PEP. So now we're looking at the spread of Islam. So the spread of Islam is very connected with trade between Islamic Empire and African kingdoms. So when you go into sub-Saharan Africa, what's happening? So African kingdoms are beginning to trade with the Mediterranean economy. So caravans of traders were more willing to push through the Sahara Desert if it meant they were getting more valuable items in trade. So basically caravans of traders is just big groups of traders. They'd be going together just like, and who wouldn't want to go somewhere for a long journey if you know you're getting something out of it? I mean, I would. And then we're seeing a common religion of Islam, meaning that trade is more easily facilitated due to like you already have something in common with someone, so it's always easier to just like get on the ground running and just get right into it. And then we're seeing Mali. So Mali is led by Mansour Musa. He's an Islamic leader, and he's centralizing and strengthening the government. So here again, we see the idea of centralizing the government. So again, very big idea. And then we have a little map here. So we're seeing the spread of Islam also into Southeast Asia. So Islamic invaders are invading India. So they're defeating the Hindus in the 10th century and they're creating the Delhi Sultanate in India. The Delhi Sultanate is just the Sultanate in India. And then many Hindus living there, like they wanted to keep their beliefs, they wanted to keep their religion. So they were taxed with this jizya tax. It's basically a tax on non-believers. If you don't convert, you're just gonna have to pay more money. So it's not like they were killing you if you don't convert, but it's still not ideal. And then we're seeing progress because of like Islam coming in and all the new ideas coming in. So we're seeing colleges founded, mosques built, and this is like they're working together with Hindu architects. So it's not just like they're completely isolated. You see Hindu architects helping build these mosques. And while some Hindus did want to keep their beliefs, many Hindus were converting to Islam. So I have another question for you guys. How was religion impacted in the Indian subcontinent? So if you could type your answer down in the chat, I'll give you 40 seconds and then we're gonna look them over. Yeah, Islam is definitely spreading. There was a little bit of fighting, but again, there's this jizya tax. So they weren't like once they were there, they weren't gonna like kill them if they didn't convert. Islam is definitely spreading. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go right to the next slide. So we're hopping right over to state building in South and Southeast Asia. So first, we're going to take a look at religion in Southeast Asia. So what's happening religion-wise? So we're seeing Buddhism, which is what we talked about earlier. So from Hinduism, there's the two different types of Buddhism, Theravada and Mahayana. And it was thriving in China, Japan, and Southeast Asia. So Buddhism, it's derived from Hinduism, so you can keep that in mind. And then Hinduism, religion and social system, there's the caste system. So similar to the hierarchy, but more strict, I would say. Like if you're in the caste, you're going to stay in that caste. And then there's close identification with the caste system, which kept it spreading as much. So not many other places were adopting the caste system. And Buddhism, as I said before, it spawned from Hinduism, so it's derived from it. And then we're looking at Islam, the Shia versus Sunni conflict. Again, Shia and Sunni, different sects, they do not get along. They have very differing viewpoints about like succession and who is going to take over. And then it's quickly spreading across the world, and it's starting from the Islamic world. So Islam is definitely a big, fast spreading religion that's happening. And then we're gonna hop right over to the Americas. In the beginning, I said the Americas were like focusing inwards, so now we're gonna see what's going on with them. So the Aztec Empire. So Tenochtitlan was the capital. So they built a series of pyramids to signal their authority over the land. So we're seeing this idea of building great and grand things to improve the like control over their land. And then conquered states were to send goods and even people to the Aztecs in their tribute system. So basically, if the Aztecs conquered someone, or a state, that state would have to be sending over goods and people to just like pay the Aztecs because now they are under the Aztecs' rule. And then the Aztecs, they did utilize human sacrifice as a religious ritual to their sun god. So this was just legitimizing their rule by showing the power of the Aztecs. So if I'm seeing someone kill someone, I am going to respect them. I'm going to think they deserve that power because they are creating themselves like a little bit of like a ruthless type of reputation. So now I have a question for you guys, 40 seconds to type in the chat. Do you understand the various methods the Aztecs used to legitimize, rule, and display power? And could you guys put an example in that when you type it in the chat? So I'll give you 40 seconds. Yes, human sacrifice. Yeah. Human sacrifice. We're seeing pyramids too, buildings. Yeah, the Meta system is like their work system. Taxes. Yeah, and the tribute system, exactly. So I think you guys got that one down. So now we're hopping over to the Incan Empire and like the engineering of it. So we're seeing Machu Picchu. So this is the home of the royal family, and it's displaying the power of the emperor, and it's high up off the ground. So they use the idea that it's closer to the gods. And Machu Picchu, it's a tall area. And that kind of reminds me of the Aztecs pyramids, honestly, because those are also tall. They catch your eye. So that's really displaying the power of the royal family. And if you notice, they're closer to the gods, and that could be like connecting them to like justified rule, maybe. And then we're seeing terrace farming. So this is creating flat areas on the steep sides of the mountains to farm. So we're seeing high crop diversity. So they're planting all sorts of crops. They're not just like keeping themselves to one crop like corn. And they're using crop rotation and irrigation systems. This is like really advanced. So crop rotation, they're planting the crops in season for the right seasons. They're not just like throwing it out there. They know their crops. And irrigation systems, so they are like focusing on engineering and developments in technologies that help them with farming, which is really one of their main like sources of income. And then we're seeing the road system. Someone mentioned in the chat earlier, the meter labor. That's just using, it's basically like indentured servitude, you could say. Yeah. And that's how they made the road system. So they didn't make them themselves, they used their laborers. And it was networks of stone roads and suspension bridges. So it's pretty advanced road system. Like the road systems really helped them mobilize and just get around. It was helping with like centralization. And yeah, it increased communication and transportation. So if you have roads, you don't have to like cross country or anything. And then we're going more into like the governing style of the Incan Empire. So the Meta system is all male citizens were forced to commit like X amount of time to labor projects in the empire. This is really just helping advance the empire, you could think of it, because who's gonna volunteer to like really just work in labor? So this is just making sure everyone does their part in society and does their duty. And then we're also having the Quipu, which is like a system of knots used to record keep. So we're seeing a lot of keeping of information. We're also seeing keeping of information in the House of Baghdad, where they like, they get together and they learn. So we're seeing a lot of record keeping. And this is also an important part of the Incan bureaucracy, from tax paying to military operations. So they can keep track of what's happening in their society and they don't have to worry about what's happening. And I think it's just really cool, like the pictures. So now we're gonna hop right over to Africa. I know this is like a real world tour. So Great Zimbabwe. So this is a non-Islamic city in the sub-Saharan Africa. So non-Islamic, they're not practicing Islam. And it's at the crossroads of many trade routes with other African states. So what happens when you're the crossroad of many trade routes? You're getting a ton of stuff. For example, you're getting gold, ivory, and ceramics. That's probably the best location to be. Like all these trade routes are intersecting, so all these merchants are coming through and everyone's just trading there. And then again, cultural exchanges due to trade routes. So what happens when you trade? You exchange cultures. So that's exactly what's happening in Zimbabwe. And there's Pep again. So then the Ethiopian highlands. So as Islam was expanding into part of Africa, Ethiopia did not want to join Islam because they were Orthodox Christians. They had Orthodox Christian religious views. So it was like the black sheep almost because it was a Christian kingdom among like all of these Islamic kingdoms in the highlands of Eastern Africa. So it was really standing out there. They were holding on to their faith. Like it says, they had a long history of the Orthodox Christian faith. So they wanted to stay true to it. So they had an incredibly diverse ethnic population. And they were a very large kingdom at the time. And then I have a question for you guys. Can you type the answer in the chat? How were the Ethiopian highlands different from other African states? Christianity. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So they were Christians and they were also incredibly diverse ethnically, and they were very large. So those are the main reasons how they were like really differing from the other African states. So now we're getting into Mali. So Mali is gaining incredible wealth due to the gold and salt trade. They're really profiting. Timbuktu was the main thing. They were getting so much wealth in trade. They were getting gold, and then they were also establishing important centers of learning. So not only were they just gaining wealth, but they were also furthering their education, which is another big topic you're seeing in this. You're seeing the House of Baghdad, where they're furthering education. You're also seeing it in Mali, where they're all looking to further their knowledge and ideas. And so there was a conversion to Islam in Mali. So we're seeing peace because all of these merchants, they're mainly Islamic. And so Mali has become Islamic, so they already have a common ground to work on. And then Mansu Musa, so he's the rich king of Mali. And then he centralized the government and expanded trade. So we're seeing once again the idea of centralizing government. And this is like a really big idea because if you centralize the government, everyone's unified, everyone's working together. And if you're expanding trade, you're getting more wealth, you're getting more culture, and you're getting more ideas to learn. And Mansu Musa, he was rich, like he had money. And then we're seeing the spread of Islam from trade routes. So we're seeing the Swahili ports. So in these ports, Islam blended with African beliefs. So we're seeing a syncretism of belief. So Islam is mixing together with African beliefs. And then we're also seeing the Trans-Saharan Trade Network. So this is facilitating the trade of goods as well as the spread of Islam through the merchants. So it's basically how it's said. If there's a trade route, you're going to be seeing a lot of goods being spread. And then Islam is a lot of the merchant's religion. So if you're working with a merchant all the time and he's always raving about Islam, you might think about joining it. And you can see here on this little map, you see Darul Islam, and then you can see how it like comes down to the African states through the merchants, through the Trans-Saharan Trade Network, and through the Indian Ocean Trade Network as well. So Darul Islam like uses these as like vessels to get into the African states and to like convert them. So we're gonna hop right over from Africa to Europe, and we're gonna see what's happening. So what in the AP world is feudalism? So the key characteristics of feudalism is that there was a social and political structural system used in Europe and other places where elites were at the top and peasants were at the bottom. So this is similar to the hierarchy that we saw in China. And due to invaders, people in Western Europe needed to be protected because, it's pretty scary getting invaded. So kings were creating like a system of servitude, possession, exchange to keep everyone protected and still working. So if you were working, you were going to be working under someone, and that someone was most likely going to have power and be able to protect you. And that's also making sure the economy is not going to be completely disrupted by the fact that there's so many invaders happening. So you're still able to work and you're not completely living in fear all the time. And then this came about with the fall of the Holy Roman Empire. So the Holy Roman Empire's fallen. So there's no more unification really. So you want to be protected in this. And then we're seeing the feudal structure. And if you think back to that hierarchy, it's similar to it with less sections, I guess you could say. So here we're seeing the peasants slash the serfs at the bottom. So they're the ones stuck working the land for lords and the manors. And they have protection in what we said before, like the protection system, but they were giving goods. So they weren't really moving up in society. They were just working, but they were protected. So they're not about to be killed. And then knights, these are the people who are providing the military service, and they got food and shelter because of their duty to the kingdom. And then we're seeing the lords. So the lords they ruled the manors. So they were these manor owners, and they provided the knights and they gained peasants. So they're providing knights to provide military service, like it says down here. And they're the ones who are having the serf servitude protection program. They're the ones who are gaining these peasants to protect, and they're using the knights to protect them. And then up at the top, we're seeing the kings. They're providing the money, land, and peasants to the lords. So the kings are really just funneling down to the lords and just helping them out. And then we're seeing religions and crusades. Okay, so the crusades, so the goal of the crusades was to reclaim Jerusalem and convert Muslims slash non-Christians to Christianity. So they were not gonna accept like a little tax if you don't convert. They want you to convert. So crusades increased European expertise in castle building because they were exposed to Islamic architecture. So you're seeing all these things and they're bringing them back. They're like, guys, this is so cool. We should learn how to do it. And then the crusading ideal. So they had this idea of the sacred cause. So they want to do this, like they're doing it for God in their eyes. And this is contributing to knightly chivalry. So knightly chivalry is just, it's like your duty, you're helping your kingdom. And then crusades ruined European Christian and Muslim Muslim Middle East relations because the crusades were just so pushy. They were like, if you don't convert, like you're just not cool. So that's just completely destroying this relationship to these people who are Muslims because they're like, we don't want to convert. And then the European Crusades are like, you have to. So the causes of the Renaissance, this is a world tour. So the Renaissance was a period of rebirth in the classical wisdom. So it's immediately following the Middle Ages that Europe has just went through. And it's witnessing a revival in arts, culture, and the sciences. So Crusaders brought back Roman and Greek artifacts. So we're seeing this new development into history, basically. We're seeing history come into Europe. There's the rising merchant class, which is spends wealth on classical arts. So again, we're seeing history, we're seeing this rising need to see an increase in like romantic arts. And then there's increased interaction between cultures, which is bringing over new technology and ideas. So again, when you interact with new cultures, you're going to be learning more things, you're going to be getting new ideas, you're going to be seeing new things such as castle building that we mentioned before. Europeans are seeing that and they're coming back and they're like, let's build some castles. So that's just an example of the new ideas that's happening. So then we're going to go right into the comparative developments. So trade network and expansion. So the Silk Roads. So the Silk Roads are covering Eurasia, and they're used to carry luxury goods as opposed to bulk goods in addition to culture, disease, religion, etc. So basically, the Silk Roads are just really, they're the luxury roads. You're getting a lot of stuff from the Silk Roads that you wouldn't normally get from different trade routes. And there's also peace on the Silk Roads, but we'll talk about that in Unit 2. And then you're seeing the sand roads. So this is the trans-Saharan caravan routes. So these are the ones that are in Africa primarily. And you're also seeing luxury goods, but you're also seeing slaves being traded. So that's also a downside that we didn't talk about, but we're seeing an increase in slavery that's happening. And again, luxury goods. So you're focusing quality over quantity. So you're not really wanting to just be buying everything in bulk now. You want to get these classical art pieces, like that was mentioned before. And then we're seeing the sea road. So the Indian Ocean Trading Network. This is a big sea road because it's people got across using monsoon winds. And this was carrying mostly bulk goods as it was cheaper to ship than on the Silk Road. So if you're on a boat, you're able to get, things in bulk across easier than if it was on a camel or in caravans if you were on the Silk Road. So it was definitely easier to ship in bulk on the sea roads and the on ground roads, you can think of it. So we're also seeing tech innovations. So we're seeing the cross-region spread. So we're seeing paper making. Originating in China, the practice spreads through Eurasia through trade routes. Paper making is going to be helping create the idea of paper money and unifying commerce. And we're also seeing gunpowder. So gunpowder is going to be big in your future units. And this is also originating in China. So you're seeing a lot of inventions from China that are spreading through trade routes. So again, it spread along trade routes to the Islamic world and creating the gunpowder empires, which are going to come into big play in your future units. So this little flow chart, you can think of it. So China is creating the paper making, and then we're seeing that the Silk Road and the merchants are bringing it to the Islamic world. And then the Islamic middlemen, Silk Road and merchants are bringing it to Europe. So you just get to see what big of a role, first of all, that the Islamic world is playing. Because if there wasn't an Islamic world, would it be able to get to Europe? Probably not. And again, we're seeing the Silk Road for both of these. So the Silk Road is having a huge play in this. And merchants again are big. They're big contributors to the spread of ideas and inventions. Okay, so now we're seeing disease transmission. So the population dynamics. So the Black Death is killing as much of 80% of European population in some areas. So this is a huge demographic change because a lot of people are dead now. This has completely ruined the environment. But other areas are faring better. So India's population is increased, but they're also separate from Europe. So India's population's increased. The Delhi Sultanate's still there. And then serfs and peasants in Europe were treated better and paid more after the plague because so many of them have died. So there's less there, so there's less to pay. So I guess you can put more money into it. So now I have a question for you guys. So how did population change and what do you think was a main outcome from the population change? You could focus on any of these. I'll give you 40 seconds. Yeah, famine. Low labor, exactly. The feudal system is collapsing. Yep. Feudalism is declining, yeah. Okay, so now I'm gonna give you guys a 5-minute break and I'll let you guys know when we're gonna get started before we go into writing skills. So 5-minute break to just comprehend everything that's happened so far.
Miriam, I can jump in here too, real quick. Really, really good stuff so far, Miriam, and really good stuff from our student hosts. I'll go ahead and I'll share a timer on the screen so you guys can use the restroom, get a snack, whatever you need to do in the chat. The other thing I'd recommend doing, guys, before we go into the writing skills is that there's a copy of the slides that have been shared out on the Fiveable website. I would go back through that if you guys need to for the next about 4.5 minutes, so you guys can start to review some of the content we went over, and then we'll go and get ready with these SAQs here in a second. Any sort of questions, guys, feel free to ask them in the Q&A too. Really smart questions so far, but take about 4.5 minutes to get water, whatever you need to do. Feel free to ask some questions in the Q&A as well.
Okay, so that's the end of the break. So I'll give you guys a minute to come back if you were away from your screen. So now what we're going to get into is the writing section of this slideshow of Unit 1, Focus. So writing skills, what we're going to do right now is the SAQ. So the SAQ is going to be 20% of your exam. What are SAQs, you may be wondering. If you are, it's totally fine. We're gonna go over it. So there's 3 types of writing on the AP test. So we're having the short answer question. So this is what we're gonna be practicing. We have the document-based question where you're given 7 documents, I'm pretty sure, and you have to analyze and then answer a prompt off using those documents. And then you also have the long essay question. You're given 3 prompts and with no like other information, and you just have to write an essay based off those prompts. So how many SAQs will you have to write on test day? So there are 3 3-part SAQs. So the first one is based on a secondary source. The second one is going to be based on a primary source. And the third or the fourth one, so the third and the fourth one have no stimulus. So the third and the fourth one, you have a choice between them. So you either choose 3 or 4 and you bubble that in your test sheet. So you don't have to do all 4, you do 3. And that one has no stimulus. So you're just answering based off your knowledge of the course. So you're having 9 SAQs in all because each one has 3 parts. And you have 40 minutes to do 9 SAQs. It may seem like not enough time, but you definitely will have enough time. Because normally SAQs are 3 to 4 sentences long. So you don't have to worry, you don't have to write a paragraph for every single SAQ, just 3 to 4 sentences, make sure you get to the point. So here's an example of the SAQ. So we're seeing here, we have 1A. So this is identify one economic development. And then you're having B, which is I explain how one piece of evidence would challenge this argument. And then C is how one intercultural transfer exchange resulted from Mongol conquest. So you can see this one is stimulus based. It's a secondary source, and it's just A, B, C, 3 sentences for each answer. So A would have 3 sentences, B would have 3 sentences, C would have 3 sentences. So how do you SAQ? So what I learned in my class was ACE it. So the first step is answering. So answer the prompt. This should be 1 sentence. Just like say your standpoint or just like the answer to the question. Just make sure you answer the question. And make sure it's like based on the stimulus that you got. This is like your mini thesis about the question. Step 2 is cite or give evidence. So you want to give a historically relevant piece of evidence, specific evidence to support the argument, step 1. Make sure it ties back to your answer. Don't give like a random piece of evidence. Make sure it does tie back. And this is also generally 1 sentence long. This is basically just putting down like just evidence that supports your answer that you gave in step 1. And then step 3 is where it all ties together. You're going to be explaining the answer you gave in the evidence you gave in step 2 to connect back to your prompt and to answer the question. So this is also generally 1 sentence long, and you should just make sure that you are truly explaining the evidence and not just talking in circles about it. So now we have a little practice. So I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes. So the question is, explain how the rise of the Mongols led to a reemergence of trade in the period 1200 to 1450. So I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes to answer this question. And please wait until the 3 minutes is up for when you type it in the chat. So I'll let you guys know when you can type it in the chat because I want to give everyone a chance to understand and come up with their own answers. So 3 minutes to brainstorm and start typing, but do not send it in until I tell you to. And remember, answer, cite, explain. Okay, so that was 3 minutes, so you guys can put your answers in the chat. Yeah, safety was a big thing that was happening. Yeah, protecting trade routes. And then because they protected the trade routes, people felt safe to trade. Yeah, which allowed more caravans to go out.
Miriam, is it okay if I jump in here real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, really awesome responses in the chat, guys. I also appreciate you guys waiting that full 3 minutes in order to post that. I think it's really cool that people are able to get those answers in without just seeing other people's answers. What I want to do really briefly, if it's okay with you, Miriam, is I want to show you guys a response that doesn't earn a point. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sounds good. Do you want me to stop screen sharing?
Yeah, if you can do that just real quick. So I'm going to show you guys an example of a response. I want you guys to go ahead and say in the chat, why don't you think this would earn a point? Why don't you think that this response would earn a point? Here we go. So it's the same prompt as before. The student responded, the Mongols led to the reemergence of trade by helping increase the security of trade. This helped increase trade. Think about 20 more seconds. Yeah, I like the all caps responses where it's like, hey, don't do this. Yeah. Very good job, guys. It doesn't have that specific evidence. It doesn't explain how it actually helps increase trade. The way I like to remember it, guys, is saying like the tell me why song, you know, from the you got to tell the why it helps increase trade. And so that's a good thing that you guys picked up on. Miriam, I can hand it back to you for the next example. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have another SAQ to go over. So this one is explain one way states in the Americas showcase their power in the period 1200 to 1450. So again, just wait until the 3 minutes is up to put it in the chat and make sure to answer site explain. And then you guys. Okay, so that was 3 minutes, so feel free to start putting your answers in the chat. Okay. Yeah, human sacrifices, that's a big one. Yeah, pyramids. You could think Machu Picchu. Yeah, big buildings. Sacrifices a sun god.
Really strong responses for this one too, guys. I want to go ahead and just showcase one I saw. This is actually for the previous one. Is that okay with you, Miriam? And so keep on putting yours in the chat. Should only be about 3 to 4 sentences long, guys. If you notice that you're writing more than that, then I don't think you necessarily need to. You guys can go ahead and snap it up for Emily. Emily, this is again was for the previous prompt, so not the one that was about the Americas. You can see some exemplars already in the chat. But what I really like about Emily's response here is not only is it specific, not only does it have that specific evidence, but also then kind of goes back to the idea of why it did lead to that increase in trade. Like they feel safe, they're going to trade more. Also with that specific evidence too, really strong response right there. Thank you, Miriam.
Sure. Nice job, Emily. And nice job, everyone else. I like the responses that's happening. So now we're going to move into discussion questions. Again, I'm going to give you guys 40 seconds for each discussion question, and feel free to type in the chat when you've got an answer. So this one is, compare state building strategies used by empires in 2 different regions. Yeah, this is a tough question. Yeah, the Aztecs had the tribute system and the Incas had the meter system. So you're seeing a lot of systems being utilized by different empires. Religion can be used too. Architecture. Yeah, China and the Incans both use, like, they had a lot of developments in infrastructure. And I also think you could think about like Europe with the feudal system and then China with hierarchy. So you're seeing like these different statuses being built into these state buildings. And then there's India with the caste system. So you're seeing these strict like sections for everyone, which is going to help centralize. Centralization is another big thing that was used to by empires and having a big reputation. Yeah. So we're going to go to the next question. So assess the impact of trade networks and societal developments across regions. And again, type your answer in the chat. This one's a little bit better than the last one, I think. So again, 40 seconds to type in. Okay, cultural diffusion. Yeah. And also trade networks, they were key in spreading like the bubonic plague and everything. So that's a big thing. Technological innovation, yes, gunpowder. Again, you're going to see that connecting into your later units. Preservation of texts, yes, the Greek and Roman texts are being preserved in the House of Baghdad, which was made able to because of the trade routes like the Silk Road and the Trans-Saharan. Disease, religion, social ideas, and luxury goods, yeah. And yeah, a lot of spread of Islam. So you're seeing this big spread of Islam into all of these different country states, which is allowing for easier trade. So now we're going to move right into the next question. And it's the last question. So what roles did religion play in shaping societies from 1200 to 1450? So type your answer in the chat. Again, 40 seconds. Yeah. So justifying rule, exactly. They would say, well, the god they worship wanted me here, so I deserve to rule. Gender roles, yep. Divine right. Social hierarchies, exactly. So you see that also in Hinduism with the caste system. Having the same religion helped with trading. Yeah, so and then trading helped shape societies because it led to spread of new ideas. Yeah, it brought about changes in technology, trade, and culture because if you share the same religion, you already had like a common ground to start working off of. Yeah, you guys really ate up this question. All your answers are great. Spread different intellectual ideologies, technologies, culture, religion, and diseases. Yep. Yeah, diseases. So you're gonna see religion spreading like the bubon, well, not religion. Religion helping trade spread, which would help spread like diseases. Okay, so this is absolutely amazing, guys. So now we're gonna have another 5-minute break. You've earned it. So I'm gonna get started with that break now.
Really, really good stuff so far, guys, too. I really appreciate seeing all the different SAQs in the chat. Really, really awesome evidence, really strong writing across the board. I would take this 5 minutes, guys, to really just like rest, recharge, get ready for unit 2. While you guys are waiting, a question you can answer in the chat, I'm going to post this here too. If you were to summarize unit 1 in your own words, what would you say? So I'm going to put that in the chat, take about 4.5 minutes to answer that, and also take time to go to the restroom, get a snack, whatever it might be.
Okay, so that was the end of Unit 1, and now I'm gonna be handing it off to my awesome co-host, Mia. She's gonna do an amazing job for Unit 2.
Okay, let me share my screen real quick. Okay. Okay, networks of exchange. So, networks of exchange is unit 2, and this is an awesome unit because we finally get to see the Mongols, all the different trade routes, all that fun stuff. And this is going to span from the period of 1200 to 1450, and this is worth about 8 to 10% of your exam. And I mean, I wouldn't necessarily trust that number because I did an exam a few days ago, and it said it would be like one of the units would be like 4 to 6% of my exam, but it like was 50%. So I mean, I don't know. I just weigh the units equally. But anyways, this is unit 2. So let's get started. Okay, the yellow period. Miriam kind of went over this, why it's called the yellow period, but I'm just gonna go over it again since we're here. Yellow symbolizes the golden age of Islam, and with Unit 2, we're actually going to see the end of the golden age of Islam because of the Mongols, but it is also more important in this unit, the sands of the Silk Road. There's obviously more trade routes in Unit 2, and Silk Road is on sand, and sand is obviously yellow, so that is why the period is yellow. So yeah, okay. Context. What is going on in history before leading up to Unit 2? So the fall of empires such as the Roman Empire is going to fall because of cultural divisions inside of the Roman Empire and invasions from outside. And this is going to lead to the end of the classical era and eventually lead to the post-classical era. I know the names are so unique. We're also going to see the trade of goods and ideas, and this is going to forge new human connections and strengthen existing ones from the classical era, and this is going to help set up a good start for trade because people are going to want items from different cultures, and the connections between different cultures are going to introduce people to new items, and overall, it's just a good way. And then finally, this is going to affect economies, culture, and environments, which is what we're going to get into in Unit 2. So without further ado, let's get into content. Silk roads. Okay, obviously we can't talk about Unit 2 without talking about the Silk Roads. These Silk Roads were a trade route that spanned from Eastern Asia all the way over to Europe. And we cannot talk about the Silk Roads without talking about the Mongol Empire. Now, the Mongol Empire was a group of people, nomadic people from Central Asia. And the Mongols were led by Genghis Khan. And Genghis Khan helped expand the Mongol Empire into what it was. He expanded it really far across a lot of Asia. And he usually, his method of expansion was through a very strong and knowledgeable army and intimidation. Now, a lot of the Mongols were actually trained on horseback from a young age, and they were also trained in archery. So when they were at the age where they could become soldiers, I mean, they were really prepared to serve, and this helped them have a very strong army. Also, there's going to have intimidation, and usually they would give the people they were conquering an ultimatum of you can surrender and like let us conquer you, or you can die. And when they chose die, they usually did it in very brutal ways. The Mongols had a reputation for being very brutal, and I mean rightfully so. They also used biological warfare, which I mean is absolutely crazy. They were catapulting dead bodies to try to kill the populations they were conquering if they defied. Absolutely crazy stuff. Also, we have the Pax Mongolica. And the Pax Mongolica was basically a period of unification in Europe. And this made administration very easy because they were unified under one. They could govern the Silk Road. And this helped flourish the economy. It helped increase trade. All that set us up for a really good time on the Silk Road. It also helped protect merchants on the Silk Road, which helped people like, want to trade more. So yeah. So this is the empire at its height. Even though the Mongols were very brutal with their tactics, it's absolutely crazy how good they worked. I mean, obviously, you can see just how big the empire was at its height. And I learned this fact the other day. But apparently, 1 in every 200 men today are related to Genghis Khan, which I mean is crazy. Genghis Khan was going crazy. But yeah, this is the Mongol Empire at its height. And if you guys can answer in the chat, how could this empire size, this huge empire, create possible problems in the future? So I'm going to give you like 20 seconds or 30 seconds to answer. People are saying too hard to control, harder to govern people. That is very true. Yeah. Ethnic diversity, yes, the people that were conquering, they all had different cultural groups. Ethnic clashes, not enough. Internal conflict. These are awesome answers, yes. Religious division. Yes. Imperial bureaucracy. These are all really good answers, and I'm actually going to go over it in the next slide, surprisingly, believe it or not. Okay, the Khanates. Now, all of this, the empire is huge at this point, like, but then Genghis Khan dies, and we don't know what to do. How are we going to divide it among his, like, 5 children? And the Khanates were established because of this, because all of them kind of had different ideas of what they wanted, but none of them could decide who really was going to govern, so this is how the Khanates were established. And a Khanate is basically a region that is ruled by a Khan. And a Khan is similar to a king or an emperor. Now, our regions are going to be the Golden Horde, the Ilkhanate, Chagatai, and the Yuan dynasty. So I'm going to start with the Golden Horde. The Golden Horde, as you can see right here, is spanned from Eastern Europe to Siberia. And the Golden Horde maintained Mongol rule the longest, so I guess they could say they're the most successful. And their big influence, big influence was influencing the modern Russian state. So they basically dissolved the Kievan Rus and influenced what Russia's government it kind of is today. Next up, going down south, we have the Ilkhanate, and the Ilkhanate was in the Middle East and spanned to Persia. Now, the Ilkhanate ended the golden age of Islam. So when they were sieging Baghdad, they basically gave them an ultimatum of, we're going to kill you, or you can surrender to us. And Baghdad defied, so they sieged Baghdad and they destroyed the House of Wisdom. And this basically brought an end to the golden age of Islam, unfortunately. But their big impact, besides this, obviously, was the mass conversion to Islam. Similar to the Ilkhanate, the Chagatai's big impact is going to be the mass conversion to Islam. But they were in Central Asia. They're kind of just like the basic Mongol, I guess. And they're mostly unchanged from like the usual Mongol traditional empire, all that. Next we have the Yuan dynasty. And the Yuan dynasty is actually my favorite because, you know, it was ruled by Kublai Khan. And Kublai Khan is actually like the coolest name ever. I think it's amazing. But the Yuan dynasty, they were unique because they were the first foreign ruled power in China. Now, they were important because they helped centralize the Chinese government and kind of revitalize the Chinese culture. Now, they also introduced China to new technology like the compass and paper money, and this helped get them into foreign trade, all that kind of stuff. So, historical developments, what is going on after the Mongol Empire? Like, you know, what did the Mongol Empire cause? Culture. The Mongol Empire was very good with religious freedom. Whenever they conquered someone, they didn't necessarily force their religion onto them. They allowed them to retain their culture, their religion, and this helped them a lot with retaining their power with the people, because obviously people don't want to change their culture or religion for the people that are conquering them, and it makes them really happy when they're able to retain this. So this helped them become favorable with the people, you know. Economics. The Pax Mongolica, because of this period of unification under Europe, is going to make administration a lot easier, and it is going to allow the Mongols to govern trade on the Silk Road. And this is going to help trade flourish, and is going to help, you know, the empire and the economics of the empire. Improved infrastructure in the regions that the Mongol Empire conquered. They improved infrastructure there. So things like bridges, anything that was implemented by the government is infrastructure. And then, of course, increased trade because they conquered or they ruled over the Silk Road. They helped increase trade by placing laws to help protect merchants so people would want to travel on the Silk Road and use the Silk Road for trade, all that. And then finally, technology. The Mongol Empire really helped advance the communication and technology of Eurasia at the time, particularly in communication, especially because they helped establish things like the postal relay system, which helped information travel across the empire really fast. So that was a really big improvement in innovation at the time. Also, the House of Wisdom during this period, they were really known for translation, and this helped spread Greek/Muslim medical knowledge because they translated these texts that had previously not been able to be read before, and this helped them discover new things, all that. And then Uyghur script. So I also have a question again. Oh, Phil, show up. Okay, can you think of another empire that practiced religious tolerance? It doesn't necessarily need to be from this period. I have one in mind, so if you guys can, yes, you guys are all saying it right now, Mughal and Akbar the Great, yes. Okay, I think you guys basically pretty much know it, but yes, it is the Mughal Empire. Also, yes, Ottoman. You guys are eating this up, yes. I forgot what the Mughal was. Tell me. They were an empire in India and they ruled there for a while. And one of their leaders was Akbar the Great, and he was very religiously tolerant, and he encouraged the integration of religions together, so not just a single religion over India. Yeah. Silk roads. Causes. Okay. What is going to cause like the flourishing of the Silk Road? First, we have the development of money economies. Now, money economies and credit and banks are really important because it provided people with different ways that they could pay on the Silk Road. And it meant that people had opportunities to pay at different times. And, it helped like connect people, because if it was like one unified currency, then caravanserai. Caravanserai was basically an inn for travelers, and this meant that travelers were safe when they were traveling, obviously. And the caravanserai also was an opportunity for the merchants to interact with locals, and they got local goods, and they could then travel further and spread these goods, and it basically resulted in the connection between cultures. Availability of goods. There was a lot of demand for luxury goods on the Silk Road, and this demand led to people obviously wanting to make profit, so they went to go get these goods, trade them back, all that. Transportation innovations. In this image, you can see that they're camels, and one of the big innovations of the Silk Road that helped facilitate the trade was the camel saddle. And the camel saddle was basically obviously a saddle for a camel that meant that people could ride it. They could also put heavy stuff on it. Now, camels are useful because unlike humans, they don't necessarily need as much water. So they're going to be really good to travel across land, and they also are able to carry heavy items on their back. So it made travel a lot easier for the merchants. The rise of powerful cities is, effects, yes. Okay, so all of this, what is it going to cause? The effects of the Silk Road. So we're going to see a rise of powerful cities, and these cities are going to act as economic hubs with increased economic activity. So these cities are going to hold a lot of influence on the regions around them, and it's going to include places like Kashgar and Samarkand. And there's also going to be more demand for luxury goods in these areas. So particularly from Asia to Europe, there's going to be demand. From Asia to Europe is going to be traded things like silk, spices, jewels, minerals, all that kind of stuff. And then from Europe to Asia, there was demand for, also porcelain from Asia to Europe. But from Europe to Asia, there's going to be things like manufactured goods, textiles, furniture, glassware, all that. Cultural and religious diffusion. This one is very important because on the Silk Road, we are going to see the spread of universalizing religions. And a universalizing religion is basically a religion that seeks to convert people. So these are going to be religions like Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism. Now, these religions are going to spread far and wide, but it's not going to include ethnic religions. And the difference between an ethnic religion and a universalizing religion is that an ethnic religion usually stays in one area, and the only way it would spread is through relocation diffusion. So ethnic religions are going to be things like Hinduism and Judaism. And then finally, the spread of disease, spoiler alert, the bubonic plague is going to spread on the Silk Road, and this is going to cause the deaths of millions in Europe, and this is going to be very important. So interconnectivity. This is a really good map showing how connected the Silk Road was with many cities. So interconnectivity at its core is basically the connection between like different areas, and the Silk Road caused a lot of this. You can see on this map, if you look for a minute, the big cultural like economic power hubs during the Silk Road and the trade routes and how religion spread across this. You can see Buddhism with their symbol, Islam, all that. If you take a minute to look at it, it's a really good map actually. Okay, moving on from land, we can go on to the ocean. And this is exchange in the Indian Ocean. So what's going on in the Indian Ocean? Well, we have this good map showing Indian Ocean trade. Now, Indian Ocean trade connected the Middle East, East Africa, South Asia, and India. She's kind of covered right now. But this helped those regions get connected. And a very important part of this was the Strait of Malacca. And the Strait of Malacca is basically an economic choke point. And a choke point is basically where you can stop the flow or trade of things if needed. So to get from the Indian Ocean to the South China Sea, you had to take the Strait of Malacca, which is what a lot of people did. Now, on the Indian Ocean, what was traded? Spices, silk, gunpowder, textiles, slaves. Oh my. Now, a lot of this sounds similar to things traded on the Silk Road. So I'm gonna ask you guys a question. What was like a similar commodity traded on the Silk Road, or what was a different commodity traded on the Silk Road compared to Indian Ocean trade? Yeah, same as silk, like the name suggests. Yeah. More luxury goods on silk. These are really good answers. These are a lot of similarities, yes. One difference. Oh, one difference. Yes, that's a good one. Slaves, porcelain, good. Also bananas. Bananas were traded during the Indian Ocean trade. Good job, guys. Okay. So, expansion, maritime trade. What are the causes of maritime trade? Okay, the Mongol Empire helped the expansion of maritime trade because, as you know, the Mongol Empire ruled over the Silk Road, and they also had a lot of influence on maritime trade as well, not only land trade. Now, when the Mongol Empire fell, it meant that people had more opportunities to trade because, I mean, it wasn't just controlled by the Mongols. So this helped encourage maritime trade. Knowledge of monsoon winds. Monsoon winds helped predict the seasonal changes and the direction that people would go if they traveled in the Indian Ocean. So when people got the knowledge of these monsoon winds, it meant that they could now know where they were going, and it helped them know when they would arrive at the port, what direction they were going, all that. Maritime technology, dhows, like pictured here, junk ships, they helped make sailing a lot easier, not as rocky as it was before. And then the compass helped people navigate and know where they were going in the regions. And then finally, the spread of Islam. Islam was disseminated a lot through maritime trade, and particularly Islam, the people that were trading were merchants, and a lot of the merchants were Muslim. So when they were trading, it helped spread Islam to the new places, particularly East Africa. So yeah. Maritime trade continued. What are the effects of the maritime trade that occurred? Okay, so we are going to see the growth of trade cities. And trade cities, similar to the Silk Road, are going to be cities where there is increased economic activity, and they're basically economic hubs, and they hold a lot of influence on the regions around them. There's also going to be diaspora, and a diaspora is when people move from their homeland to another region. Now, diasporas can be voluntary or forced. In this case, it was usually voluntary because it was merchants taking their religion from one place to the new place and spreading that religion and helping disseminate. Usually it was Islam. But an example of a forced diaspora was the transatlantic slave trade. These people obviously did not want to leave, but they were forced to leave, and this caused a diaspora. Culture and technological transfers. We are going to see the adoption of the compass, and this is obviously going to have a big impact because it is going to lead to European expansion, which we're going to get to in the next units tomorrow. But yeah, it's going to be very important with the compass and also culture. There is going to be the spread of religion. Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism are going to spread a lot through maritime trade, and these universalizing religions that want to convert people are going to have a big spread. And how do monsoon winds and diasporic communities connect? So if you guys, oh, sorry. If you guys want to leave the answer to that in the chat, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. The question is, how do monsoon winds and diasporic communities connect? Monsoon winds, yes, these are good answers. Determine how people could travel, allowed merchants to travel, to establish diaspora communities. Yes, these are all really good answers. So for a reminder, monsoon winds were winds that help determine the direction of travel in the sea and where they were going to land, where they were going to arrive, all that. And then diasporic communities are communities that went away from their homeland into a new region, spread their culture, all that. Monsoon winds allowed merchants to travel and then establish diasporic communities. That is a really good answer. Yes. Okay, moving on. We have the trans-Saharan trade routes. So we're going back to land. We're leaving the ocean. We're going to trans-Saharan trade routes. And what caused trans-Saharan trade routes? Transportation technology, camels. Now, camels were very important because they did what humans couldn't do, and that was travel very long distances without water and carry very heavy objects. Now, obviously, camels are going to be a lot more efficient than humans because humans need water. They can't necessarily travel that far without water. So this was really helpful for merchants because it meant that they could travel a lot more efficiently. Caravanserai. The caravanserai was a kind of an inn for merchants, and this meant that when merchants stayed there, they could interact with the locals and get local goods, and then they could take these goods, travel, and spread these goods across. So caravanserai really helped trade flourish because it helped protect the merchants and it helped spread new goods to the merchants. Demand for gold, nuts, salt, and cloth. Now, the two most important ones that you're probably going to want to know are salt and gold. These were two very popular commodities that were traded across the trans-Saharan trade route. And you might remember Mansa Musa and all his gold moving along. Favorite person ever, no. And this is eventually going to lead to the growth of empires. Now, empires like Mali, Ghana, and Songhai are going to gain a lot of influence and become economic power hubs that are going to have a lot of influence on the region around them. Now, like in Mali, you probably remember Timbuktu and Mansa Musa. He is going to be a very influential figure in this period. And then because of this growth of empires, there's also going to be the strengthening of governments. Now, this influence is going to be pretty important, and it's going to cause them to become more powerful around the region, and their governments, they're going to need to strengthen them. And then the growth of Islam. Many merchants participating in the trans-Saharan slave trade were Muslim. So as they travel around the region, they are going to spread Islam, and this is going to make Islam the predominant religion in the Eastern Asia, Northern Asia, I'm not Northern Asia, Eastern Africa, Northern Africa kind of region. So it's going to make Islam spread a lot there. And we're going to consolidate this all together, all of these trade routes, into the cultural effects of trade. So, cultural effects of trade. One of the biggest effects is that we are going to see the spread of belief systems. Now, I've mentioned this numerous times, but universalizing religions are going to see a huge spread with all these trade routes. So Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam are going to be the big ones. There's also going to be religious syncretism. Now, syncretism is the blending of two cultures, and for this, we are going to see the emergence of syncretic beliefs like Zen Buddhism. And Zen Buddhism is going to be transferred from India to East Asia, and it's going to combine the values of Taoism and Confucianism. Influence on language. We're also kind of going to see a syncretic blend of languages with Swahili, and Swahili blends Bantu and Arabic. And this happened because as the Muslim traders were traveling from Asia, they were meeting with the people that spoke Bantu in Eastern Africa, and this helped create a new language in that region. And then the literary and artistic transfers. The House of Wisdom in this era was very important. The House of Wisdom was basically the intellectual and cultural center of the Islamic faith. And at the House of Wisdom, they translated texts. So we got a lot of new texts that we hadn't previously been able to read before. And also there was a lot of books, all of this kind of stuff that helped transfer knowledge from one person to another. And in the House of Wisdom, it says Muslim scholars translated Greco-Roman text. And like I said, this helped give them new knowledge, medical knowledge, travel knowledge, all that kind of stuff. So Angkor Wat, the spread of Hinduism. What's going on here? Well, the Angkor Wat, as you can see in the background, is a very large religious temple, and it was originally Hindu, but it eventually converted to Buddhism. And merchants from India brought Hinduism and Buddhism to Southeast Asia. This is important because this is why we're going to see a lot of Buddhism in Southeast Asia. And Hinduism, though, is more of an ethnic religion, so it's going to stay kind of central to that area, whereas Buddhism is going to be able to spread all across Eastern Asia and Southeast Asia. And this is in modern day Cambodia and was part of the Khmer Empire. The downfall of trading cities. Unfortunately, with the all these trade routes, there's going to be the downfall of a lot of these trading cities eventually. Baghdad is going to fall because of attacks from the Mongol Empire. Like I said, during the Ilkhanate, they tried to siege Baghdad, and Baghdad defied, and eventually this led to their demise. So this ended the Abbasids. And then the siege of Constantinople. Constantinople was sieged by the Ottomans, and this brought an end to the Byzantine Empire. Now, this is all really sad because it led to the end of two very famous empires. So, scientific and technological transfers, not just culture and tradition. What is happening? Papermaking. Papermaking is very important. This is going to transfer from China to Europe, and it is going to increase literacy. So, in China, it was originally woodblock printing, and this spread to Europe, and they developed the printing press. Now, the printing press was very important because it helped disseminate Bibles, and also it's going to be very important during the Protestant Reformation because it's going to allow people during the Protestant Reformation to spread their religious beliefs and help get the message out. Also is going to be the spread of gunpowder. This is going to lead to the rise of gunpowder empires, which is going to be in the next unit. But this is stemming from China, and it's going to cause a lot more deaths. It's a lot more deadly than previous weapons. So yeah. And if you guys can leave in the chat if you have any other ideas of technological transfers that you can think of from Asia to Europe during this period, or from Europe to Asia, anything, leave that in the chat. Compass, yes, that's very good. Compass, printmaking, yes. The question is if you can think of any more technological transfers from Asia to Europe. Shipbuilding techniques, that's very good. Noodles, okay. Yeah, I guess it's valid. Astroloop. Gunpowder, yes. Sales, these are all really good answers. Governing styles, I really like that one, it's a good one. Greek and Roman text translation, yes. Paper money, yes. These are all really good answers. Medicine, yes. Yeah, okay. So I think you guys know it. Good job. I'm gonna move on. Cities and travel, what's going on here? So following the trade routes, not necessarily for trade though, we are going to see the rise of trading cities. Now, these trading cities are going to have a lot of economic influence on the area, and it is going to have flourishing economies with flourishing trade. So an example of this is Samarkand, and we are also going to see a lot of famous travelers. So people like Ibn Battuta, Marco Polo, okay, and Marjorie Kemp are going to write about their experiences, and the modern person is going to be able to read this, learn about travels, learn about new regions, and it's going to be pretty important. So yeah, you can see Ibn Battuta right here, traveling, and he is from, where was he from? I don't know. But yeah, this is Ibn Battuta and Samarkand. Environmental effects of trade. So we're talking about the cultural effects, now we're shifting over to environmental effects. What's going on? Okay, environmental consequences. I'll let you guys answer this in the chat. Who would win? A singular rat or a whole continent, which is Europe? Okay, a lot of people are saying the rat. I'm gonna give you a spoiler for this. It, in fact, is the rat, yes. Now, of course, this is going to lead to the bubonic plague, and the bubonic plague is very unfortunate because it kills about half of your population. Now, the bubonic plague spread through trade. So on the Silk Road, merchants, as they went from place to place, they're getting the disease, they're traveling to new places, and they're spreading that disease, which is going to help disseminate the disease all around, and it's going to obviously kill a lot of people. Also, biological warfare, the Mongols, they're crazy. They are catapulting infected people across the borders of the people they are trying to conquer. So this disease spreads and kills the people, obviously, which is a horrible way of, trying to conquer someone. But that's how it spread as well. And yeah, it killed half of Europe's population, and this is going to lead to the Dark Ages of Europe. So not a very good period. Dirty but effective. Okay, yeah, you're right. Um, Crops. Okay, the disease was pretty depressing, but we can also talk about crops. Crops is pretty good. Champa rice, a very famous rice, is going to help China get out of famine. Now, at this point, China is struggling with a lot of droughts and crop failure, so they're all starving over there. And then the miracle comes with a champa rice. Yes, champa rice. Okay. So champa rice is drought resistant and it takes them out of their famine. And it helps the population boom. And this is going to be a common factor in all of these. All of these are going to help the population of the areas boom. Now, going over to bananas, this is going to be from Indonesia to sub-Saharan Africa. And again, this is going to cause a population and a migration increase. And then finally, my favorite, last but not least, is the citrus fruit. And this is going to spread from Southeast Asia, and it is going to be spread by Muslims to Europe. Now, these are all going to cause significant population growth in the regions. And especially with champa rice, because it is drought resistant, is going to become a culture, it is going to become a staple in Chinese culture. Yeah. Environmental degradation. Unfortunately, we are also going to have environmental degradation. And this is mainly going to be in the form of poor soil. So overgrazing is going to cause the soil to not have its nutrients that it needs to grow. And this is going to lead to Great Zimbabwe abandoning the city because they can't grow on it anymore. So it's obviously not going to be prosperous. And then deforestation. Erosion in European soil. When the forest is all taken down, it harms the soil and it takes the nutrients out there need to grow plants. So it's going to lead to erosion where plants cannot be grown there anymore. And then finally, the Little Ice Age. If you watch the movie Ice Age, pretty good movie. It was in the 1300s in Europe, and it is going to cause the climate to be colder and wetter. And it is also going to lead to crop loss and eventually lead to famine. All of these have a common denominator, and it is that you cannot plant in those conditions. So this is going to cause famine in these areas, which is obviously pretty bad. So comparisons in trade. Again, connecting all of this together, what is happening in these regions? I'm going to let you guys answer a few questions in these. So similarities in trade. Now that we have learned about each of the major trade routes active between 1200 to 1450, we got to compare them. So what's going on? Okay, what were some commonly traded items and what did people want? I'm going to give you guys a minute to answer this in the chat. Yes, silk. Silk is really common for all of them, yes. Silk, porcelain, yes. Spices, slaves, ivory, that's a good one. Gunpowder, textiles, yeah. Foods that cause population growth, yes. These are all really good answers. Banana. That's a very important one. Citrus, yes. Champa rice. Champa rice in the chat. Yes, you guys did eat that. Yeah, good job. So moving on from this, how did all these trade routes promote cultural and religious diffusion? If you guys want to point out specific religions as well that cause this, I'm going to give you a minute to answer. Islam, yes. Buddhism, Christianity, yes. Spread of Hinduism and sea because of Indian Ocean trade, yes. Islamic merchants. Greek and Roman text, that's a good one. Syncretism, yes. Good answer, syncretism. Creating Swahili, yes. Good job. Okay, last question for similarities. Now we're gonna move on to differences. What other similarities can you find? Put them in the chat. Just any similarity between Trans-Saharan, Silk Road, and the Indian Ocean trade. Disease, yes. They all carry disease. They all spread culture, yeah. Wanting luxury goods, yes. Fulfilled demand for foreign goods, that is a very big one, yes. Ideas, religion, disease, yes. They're all trade routes. Okay, that's a very, yeah. You guys are really smart. I believe in you guys that you're gonna get 5s. Expansion of states, yes. Islamic mathematics and sciences, advanced civilizations. Good job, guys. Okay, differences in trade. So we know how these trade routes are similar. We just discussed them. But how were they different? I feel like this one's a little bit harder than the similarities, but how did the environments where trade took place differ along trade routes? So what's the differences between the environments? Sand versus water, yes. Land versus sea. Biomes, yes. Indian Ocean, okay. Sea routes took longer. Navigating monsoons and water travel, yes. Camels, yeah, there was a difference in obviously travel, so camels for land and then ships for the sea. You guys are going crazy in here. Yeah, you're all right. Okay. Less Black Death in some places than others. Yeah, I was really facilitated by the Silk Road. Okay. Geographical difference, guys. My English is not Englishing today. What different technologies were developed? Yes, we are going to do a cram quiz tonight, I swear, guys. We're going to play the music as well, don't worry. Saddle, yes. Compass. Astrolabe, yes. Boats. Caravanserai, yes. You guys prepared for this exam. Guys, you guys are doing amazing. Okay, someone's saying the Fiveable song in the chat. Okay. Yes, we're gonna do the cram quiz, I swear. Okay. Someone just ate a large fry from Popeyes. Okay. Very good. Okay, and last but not least, what other differences do you see? Bulk goods versus luxury goods, yes. Methods of travel, Navigational techniques, yeah. Cultural differences, Methods of religious conversion, yes. Some people were religiously tolerant, others forced conversion on the people they were conquering. Methods of conquering, yes. You guys are so good at this. Okay. So, after all that, let's summarize Unit 2. What's going on there? Improved environmental knowledge technology and new commercial practices. All of this cultural conversion is going to lead to new commercial practices in the region, And because of this, we are going to see the expansion of trade routes. Now, the expansion of trade routes is obviously going to lead to the increased amount of trade. And the increased amount of trade is going to lead to new cities being established that become very influential and become economic hubs that center around trade and become very influential in the region and have caravans arise for merchants that they can use. Interaction between different cultures is going to lead to cultural and religious diffusion. The increased convergence between cultures is going to cause a lot of cultural diffusion between the different cultures, and we are going to see a lot of religious diffusion in this period, particularly in the spread of Islam, and especially with the Indian Ocean trade, there is going to be an increase in interaction between Islamic merchants and the East Africans. And this is going to lead to syncretism between the two cultures and the creation of things like Swahili, of language Swahili. There's also going to be religious diffusion, obviously. And yeah, what can we explain again or go in detail and further if you guys want to ask any questions in the chat about this period? Let me know. Yeah, feel free to also ask these questions in the Q&A because we have some excellent hosts over there. The Indian Ocean network spanned from Eastern Asia to Eastern Africa. So it's going to primarily be the regions of Eastern Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, which is India, and then Southeastern Asia. The Abbasid Caliphate is going to be more Unit 3, so I think we're going to go more into in depth in that on tomorrow. Freemanpedia or Heimler for unit reviews. I had a push today and used Heimler. What were goods traded in Trans-Saharan? These are going to be primarily things like gold, salt, nuts, and cloth. This is a good answer in the chat to one of the questions about bulk versus luxury. Someone said timber is a bulk good, but silk is more of a luxury good. So luxury goods are going to be produced in smaller amounts, and they're going to be a lot more expensive than bulk goods. What was traded on all routes? On all routes, there was like specifically for each route or just like like on all routes? I'm assuming it's gonna be things like silk, spices, um, stuff like that. Yeah, these are really good questions. Yeah, silk was traded across a lot of them. Yeah. I will keep I will keep answering these questions in the chat, but for now, we're gonna go on SAQ practice, but we're gonna take a 5-minute break before we go on to that. So I'm gonna give you guys one timer. So I will answer these questions in the chat while I do a timer. Oh, don't mind the Heimler's history at the bottom. Okay. I'm gonna play the Okay. It's gonna start the timer. And yeah. Okay, guys, we finished our break, so we're gonna do some SAQ practice. Oh, I lost the SAQ practice. Okay, I'm back. Okay, SAQ practice. So first off, what is an SAQ basically? How do you SAQ? All that stuff. Now this is fresh in my mind because I actually just took the A-push exam today, so I had to do a bunch of SAQs. But basically, an SAQ is a short answer question, and with this, there are going to be 3 types of questions, and on the first one is going to be a comparison between 2 different authors and their viewpoints. And then the second one is going to be a primary source, so a document from that period. And then finally, the last one is going to be like a choose one. There's like, you have 2 options and you get to choose which one you want. I think the last one's the easiest. So my recommendation is that if you're really bad at reading, like in understanding primary and secondary sources, then I would go to the last one first, since I feel like the last one's the easiest and there's a lot of like kind of free ground on that one. But yeah, okay. So how do you answer an SAQ? My teacher taught me T, like TEA, and T stands for thesis, evidence, analysis, but I've heard a lot of different acronyms. Okay, yes, people are saying they learned T too. Yes. Okay. So step 1, I'm not going by the T method right now, I'm going by this, but so step 1, you have to answer. Answer the prompt. 1 sentence long. Based on the stimulus, you have to respond to the prompt. And if it's something to like analyze like the extent of, make sure to put that in there. And this is your mini thesis about the question. And then you are going to give evidence to support this thesis. It can't like not support the thesis, obviously. And it has to be historically relevant. And if it specifically gives you a time period in this, like if it says like evaluate the yada yada from like 1800 to 1845, you have to stay in that time period. You can't just like go out. So you have to support your argument. It has to be, and then this is going to usually be 1 sentence long. So usually these are like SAQs are normally like 3 to 4 sentences long, but yeah. Okay, and then finally, connect your evidence to your initial answer. So this is the analysis step if you're doing T, and you are going to link step 1 and 2, and this is also usually going to be 1 sentence long, but you're going to explain why your evidence supports your answer. So yeah. So with T, thesis, evidence, analysis, basically just goes by this, but SAQ is worth, I think, 20% of your exam grade. But yeah. Okay, we're back. Okay, but yeah. Okay. So that is an SAQ. And I saw some questions earlier regarding the timing of the SAQ. So you're going to have 40 minutes on the SAQ. This is going to be right after the multiple choice. So it's going to be in like 1 section. And then you're going to go over to the what is it called? You're gonna usually take a break and then you're gonna go over to the LAQ and DBQ, and those are gonna be in like 1 time section. So it's going to be consolidated into 1. You're not gonna get breaks in between those. But yeah, like it doesn't like separate into sections like you get like yada yada on this. It's like you can choose how you want to move between the DBQ and the LAQ. So yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's actually do an SAQ. So I'm gonna ask you guys to not answer this. Well, I mean answer this, but don't put it in the chat until the time is over. I'm gonna give you guys probably around like 4 minutes to answer this. And remember, answer the question, cite specific evidence that is relevant to this period. So like it actually is in the period, and explain this. I'm gonna give you guys around 4 minutes starting now. And remember, don't put it in the chat until like the time is over so people don't get your answer. But yeah. Okay, you guys can put your answers in the chat. Oh, wow. They're coming in. Okay, give me a minute. Okay. These are good. A lot of you are using the example of monsoon winds, which I think is a very good answer, and the compass, which is also a really good answer. I'm gonna shout, I'm gonna butcher this. Juwal Patel, your answer is really good. He talks about, with his analysis, specifically, he talks about how without technological innovations like the compass, it wouldn't be as efficient, and because of the longer voyages, a lot of the products might perish. That's a really good answer.
Can I also jump in here real quick, Mia?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to do two different things real quick, chat. The first thing I want to do is kind of similar to what I did a little bit earlier, which is to show you a response. I want you to tell me if this response would earn a point, yes or no, and why. So same prompt as you guys saw. Let me know if this response would earn a point. If you guys are saying the answer, I want you to also tell me why. Yeah, it looks like you guys are getting it right there. I do think that honestly, if the camels could swim, then heck yeah, then have them do it. Then good for them. I show you this one. For one, I think it's sometimes easy, especially during the actual exam, to get all these answers in your head kind of mixed up. And so just take a second to like slow down, make sure you're reading the prompt. I would also annotate the prompt for which critter it's talking about. It could be easy to kind of skip over that part. But yes, if the camels could swim, that'd be amazing. So that was one that wouldn't earn the point. I want to go ahead and show one. I know that me was able to shout out one that was able to earn the point. This is one that I've seen in my class that would be able to earn the point. You guys can see it on the screen here too as like an exemplar. So one way technological changes facilitate trade in the Indian Ocean was by allowing increased navigation. New inventions like the compass allowed for better navigation. This helped increase trade because people were able to know where they were going better, making them safer and thus allowing them to increase trade. What I also think is important about this example, y'all, is that as I was looking in the chat, I know that you guys had a fair amount of time to type that up. This is only 3 sentences. It only really should be 3 to 4 sentences for each part, because otherwise you're going to lose time that you should be spending. You can always come back later and add on if you have extra time, but it shouldn't be 9 different sentences for one part of the SAQ. So look at that as the exemplar. Really good stuff in the chat. Mia, thank you for letting me do that.
Okay, I'm back. Okay. Also, I'd like to formally apologize to Jewel in the chat because I butchered that name so bad. I'm so sorry for that. Okay. Okay, moving on to another SAQ. I'm gonna let you guys see the prompt for a minute and then I'm gonna switch over. We're gonna have 3 minutes for this one, kind of just to practice on timing because you only have such a limited amount of time. But yeah, I'm gonna let you guys read this for a minute and then gonna go over. Okay, that is end of time. Oh wow, they're flooding in. Oh gosh. And someone asked earlier if they could access the recordings since they're late. Yes, you can access them in the Cram Hub, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, someone. These are really good answers. A lot of you guys are using Islam in your answers, like the spread of Islam, which is a really good answer. I really like, I'm gonna picture this again, guys. Ilya's answer. She has a really good thesis. One cultural effect from the rise of the trans-Saharan trade route in the period of 1200 to 1450 is the spread of Islam to North Africa. And she has a really good piece of evidence where she talks about how merchants, a lot of them were Muslim, and then when they traveled, they helped spread their religion. I think that's a really good answer.
Mia, can I also talk about
Yeah.
this one real quick too?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, really strong job in the chat, guys. I also like you guys hyping each other up. That makes me really happy. Um, I want to show you guys this response. I'm just going to show it to you guys. I want you to tell me what you think of it. So in the chat, what do you guys think of this response and why? We got one person saying it's bad. That's wild. It's horrible. You should be ashamed of yourself. No. Yeah. I think that when I was looking back through some of the responses on the previous FAQ, I think that y'all did a really good job at naming the technology. A lot of it just comes down to then explaining, right? Why is it going to allow more trade for the previous example? For this one, why is there going to be the rise of Islam? And so I want you guys to keep that one in the back of your mind. I'm going to scroll up a bit. I want you guys to now look at this one. What difference do you see, and why does that matter? What difference do you see? Why does it matter? What makes it a better explanation too? What makes it a better explanation? You're saying it connects to the prompt. Where are they specifically telling you the why behind? Yeah, I think what you guys are getting to is good. I really think that it really is your opportunity or explanation, whether it's in SAQs, in DBQs, or in LEQs, when you get to that explaining part, to really just think about why does it all connect back to the prompt. This one, you're trying to explain why it was a cultural effect. This explanation really gets to that too. So keep that in the back of your mind as we get into one of our last examples. Thank you again, Mia.
Okay. Our last one, I'm gonna let you guys see it. Explain one way the rise of the Mongols led to a demographic change in Europe in the period 1200 to 1450. I'm excited to see your answers for this one. So I'm just gonna let you look at it for a minute, and then I'm going to change it over to the timer. Oh, sorry. And that is time. Also, someone asked in the chat what ACE meant, and I just learned that it meant answer, cite, expand. And then T means thesis, evidence, analysis, and these are things that you can use like to outline your SAQ and the sentences you're going to use. Go to the top. A lot of you guys are using the bubonic plague as an example, which is a really good example because obviously it was the primary cause of demographic changes in Europe. Soha B, I'm sorry if I butchered that, did a really good job explaining why this impacted European demographics. She mentioned the bubonic plague and then said that it led to the spread of infectious and deathly diseases in many European states and a subsequent decrease in European populations. And she specifically talked about the bio warfare and how the Mongols launched the bodies over the walls. So good job. Yes, a lot of you guys are mentioning the Silk Road as well in talking about how the Mongols, since they facilitated trade on the Silk Road, the bubonic plague spread to Europe. That's a really good point.
And me, if I can jump in here.
Yeah.
I really do think that the responses were really strong, guys. I think that like just like get the image in your head of just like you're just like in a city, and you're just like looking up, the Mongols like right outside your walls, and all of a sudden you see this body flying towards, and you're just like, ah, it'd be a really hard morning for you. Um, I think that for this one, guys, one of the reasons why I had this as a practice question is because that word demographic, imagine it didn't say population right after it. A really big key part, especially if you have the paper exam, but even if you have the computer exam, is slowing down just to annotate your prompts so you know what it's asking for, right? This question would be entirely different if it asks you about the economic effects. It's not. You were on the point if you talk about economic effects. So slow down, look for the keywords like that, demographic, economic, so you know what you're actually answering. And really good stuff in the chat overall. Mia, you can keep on going on. Thank you.
Okay, now it is everyone's favorite time. We're gonna do the cram quiz. Wait, I gotta find it, guys. Okay. Turn the music on since I know that's the part you guys like. Oh, restart quiz. Confirmed. Okay, go ahead. Join. Someone said that no one in the history of their school has gotten a 5. You are going to be the first one to get a 5, I swear. Also, a tip for the digital exams, I would bring a piece of paper because for me specifically, I took a digital exam today and you can't really annotate on the computer. So make sure to bring a piece of paper because it's a lot easier to annotate on there. How do we join? Use the QR code, scan it. I will also drop the link in the chat here. Thank you guys for also dropping links. I appreciate that. It depends on how your school is going to do it. I know this year World can be done online digitally or on paper. So it depends on how your school is doing it. They're going to provide you paper for the exam. I don't think you can bring it on your own. Was it harder to concentrate on the computer? When I studied, I thought it was a lot harder to concentrate, but when I did it, like when I locked in during the test, I thought it was a lot easier actually. It went by a lot quicker, especially with like the DBQ and the LAQ. It was a lot easier. You guys hear the music? Hopefully. No. It's quiet. Oh wait, let me. Is that easier? Better? Okay. Okay. I think. Okay. And you guys can join after we start it. I'm just gonna give it like 10 more seconds and then I don't know how to make it started. Is that like kind of better? Or turn it up all the way? It's like really loud for me. Okay, I'm gonna start the quiz. The answer was D, and a lot of you got that correct. A lot of you got it confused with B, and the question was, what role did technological innovations play in enhancing long-distance trade along the Silk Roads? Improved navigational tools is probably going to be the main one because it is going to be the thing that helps people get from destination to destination, and this is long distance, obviously, so it's going to help. But yeah, a lot of you got that right. Kudos. Okay. Oh wow, like all of you got this one right. Good job. The question was, what impact did Mongol rule have on long distance trade along the Silk Road networks in Eurasia? And the answer was they increased safety and stability, thereby facilitating greater movement of goods and people. Correct. Oh, the music isn't working. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's not working. I love the little emojis that you can throw around at the bottom. It's cute. No, the music is like just isn't. You should serenade us, Mia. Oh, yes, I will. No. No. You guys are actually gonna have your ears bleed. Guys, am I an opera singer or what? I'm gonna reveal the answer and hope it plays next question because I cannot sing, guys. How did Mongol Empire's promotion of the Silk Road trade routes primarily affect Eurasian societies during their reign? It facilitated increased cultural exchange and economic integration between East and West, and most of you got that right, correct. Okay, there we go. There's music, thank God. Is it sharing? Oh, yay, I figured it out. Yay. Okay. Guys, I did it. I'm a technological, like, I don't know, crazy person. Okay. What impact did the Mongol invasions have on the status of women in society? Generally increased the roles and responsibilities for women, especially with regards to commerce and management. The Mongols were pretty good about having not necessarily equality in their society, but women had specific roles that helped them. Okay. I'm the art name for Homicide right now, guys. I'm not getting hot. Okay, is that music better? How's the sound on that? Is it like too loud, too quiet? Okay. Lower, please? Okay, I'll do like middle. How's that? How's that? I figured this out. Okay, yay! Okay, which product was not a major commodity traded along the trans-Saharan trade routes? And it was silk. It was traded along the trade routes, but the primary good is going to be slaves, gold, salt, nuts, cloth, all that kind of stuff. Okay, the spread of Islam across the Sahara into West Africa occurred primarily through what aspect of trans-Saharan converse? You guys like literally all got this right. And it was Muslim merchants who introduced Islamic beliefs and practices with areas of commerce. Kudos. You guys creating socialism in the chat. Okay, I'm gonna reveal the answer. What impact did the trans-Saharan trade have on West African societies? And a lot of you also got this answer. It helped kingdoms like Mali and Ghana accumulate wealth through gold trade. And a lot of these questions right now are like, what is it, Unit 2? But we're gonna move on to Unit 1. Like, I add the questions a little later in this. I wish I put them first. Okay, reveal answer. You guys did majority get this right. And the question was, how did the Columbian Exchange most significantly impact the cultural practices of European societies in the early modern period? And the answer was the introduction of New World crops such as maize and potatoes led to population growth and changes in diet. Yes. I love the little emojis, they're so cute. Someone's going to sleep. Good night. Hope you sleep well. Maybe you're panicking because you don't know this stuff. That's really valid. I like crammed for 8 push in a day, but honestly, I think you guys know it. your FAQ answers were like really good, so. 2 weeks of reviews so far. Good for you. That you're gonna be prepared. How was the A-push exam? Guys, that was pretty good. Which trade route was most significantly impacted by the spread of the bubonic plague in the mid 14th century? Silk Road, correct. Remember, the bubonic plague spread on the Silk Road because of merchants traveling from region to region, and also the Mongols were doing whatever they were doing, weird stuff. Okay. Any predictions for the DBQ prompt? I saw online that someone said they predicted it was going to be during the Cold War. I'm not sure how true that is though. I think that with a grain of salt, but maybe study up that a little bit. They were very wrong about predictions last year. I studied the wrong thing. Okay, this person says that it's gonna, like, the predictions are it's gonna be on the Cold War, the World Wars, and industrialization, or like one of those. So that's your predictions. I think those are pretty good ones. Okay, and you all like basically got this one right again. How did the use of credit and banking practices during this period affect European economies? And the answer was C, facilitated the expansion of commercial activities. Someone's calling me out for my pirated movies. Guys, don't mind that. HBO Max is expensive on what Succession. Okay. And majority of you got this one right. What factor contributed to both the spread of Islam into sub-Saharan Africa and its influence on governments there between 1200 and 1450? And the answer was trade networks, such as those across the Sahara, facilitated both conversion to Islam and its incorporation into African state policies. Guys, I cannot speak English tonight. Oh my god. Okay, this one's a little easy. It's one word answer. A lot of you guys are saying that you're worried about the prompt being in the modern era. For me, I was the opposite. Like for APUSH at least, I was screwed if it was in the like colonial era. I don't know. I just don't understand it that much. AP Lang. I think it was like I feel like I'm a good writer. I don't know. I feel like it was pretty hard at first because it's timed writing, so you have to like do it in a constrained period of time, which is really hard for me at first, but I think it's a pretty cool class and it helps you write essays a lot better. Okay, which city became a vibrant center for Islamic culture and scholarship during the Golden Age? And the answer was Baghdad. Yes, there is stimulus practice on Fiveable with the cram mode, which I don't think you guys have, whatever. But there is like practice exams, and then there's like the stimulus-based questions. They're pretty good. How much did I study for APUSH? I started studying like yesterday. It was really bad. I'm a junior. Yesterday, yes. And I took a nap after school. I didn't even immediately start studying. It's okay. I watched every Heimler video. Honestly, I think I did kind of good. Don't follow my lead. You guys are good because you're attending the cram sessions and you're prepared and everything. I'm so proud of you. I did get a 5 on AP World. That's my biggest flex. That's why I have my I Love AP World shirt, guys. Not mad, just disappointed. Guys, you guys are getting me in trouble. Okay, you guys. Oh, this one's a little hard. What was one impact of climate change in South Asia between 1200 to 1450? Variations of monsoon patterns led to changes in agricultural productivity affecting food supply stability. Remember, climate change is going to affect Earth's patterns, and yeah, it's going to affect monsoon patterns as well. Best advice I can give to students taking AP US history? Honestly, ooh, I don't know. Oh gosh, you probably shouldn't ask me for advice for this. Don't be like Mia. Okay, Andy, you're fake. Favorite AP? AP World, obviously. I can't say anything else. You Hamilton? That's literally what I did. I watched Hamilton last night. How'd you get a 5 on AP World? A miracle. No. I studied pretty hard for AP World, and I had a really great teacher that helped me grasp the content. And I also just really love the content before. So. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Okay, I didn't reveal the answer. You guys are making me so happy. Okay. How did the geography of the Indian subcontinent affect the development of trade networks during this period? And the majority of you got the answer right. It was C. Its central location on the Indian Ocean facilitated maritime trade between East Africa, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. Someone called my posters cute. Thank you so much. I've worked so hard in my room. Is there a movie like Hamilton that would be good for AP World? My teacher actually had us watch a bunch of Bollywood movies to help. Like, I don't think there's one that encapsulates like all of AP World, obviously, but she had us watch a lot of Bollywood movies, like the Indian decolonization and like the colonization of India. So yeah. Bollywood movie recommendation: Lagan is a really good movie. It's like actually so good. How did I get a 5? I really studied the content, and I feel like I grasped it when I first got it, but I also used Fiveable. I read all the study guides before the exam, and it was really helpful. Have you guys watched Lagan before? Yes! And my favorite color? My favorite color is pink. I have a red water bottle. That's how pretty it is. Okay, considering Swahili city-states such as oh gosh, don't ask me to pronounce this. What strategic advantage did these locations provide that boosted economic expansion in Eastern Africa? And the answer was D. These coastal cities served as crucial trading hubs linking inland African goods with Indian Ocean trade networks. We're almost done. We have 5 minutes. What did I get on the MCQs? I don't know what I specifically got on the MCQs, but when I was taking tests, honestly, on the MCQ last year, I wasn't doing the best, but when I took MCQ tests for A-push this year, I was getting 45 out of 55 maybe? I don't know. Where's my Bowie poster from? I think I got it from Amazon. Okay, the answer. How did migration within the time frame specifically affect social structures in Southeast Asian societies? Migrants often filled labor demands, creating opportunities for intercultural exchange within urban centers. Correct. You guys keep saying you're getting 1s in the chat. You're not gonna get 1s. You all are getting 5s. You're responsible enough to show up to the cram session, study. You guys are doubting yourselves. You shouldn't. I believe in you. It's funny if you can get a 5. No, you literally are gonna get a 5. Yes, we need more confidence in the chat. Guys are gonna get 5s. You're gonna bring that pass rate up so much. It's actually crazy. you should do a poll after test of what scores people got. They did that last year, and there's like statistics of people who use Fiveable versus not or whatever. But I use Fiveable to study. The study guides are like awesome for it, so I really recommend them. Okay, and the answer was, what was an economic consequence? Oh wait, the answer was increased trade activity along maritime routes connecting China with Southeast Asian polities. Guys, I don't know if that's a typo or if I'm just really bad at content. I took AP World as a sophomore. Okay, this one's pretty easy. I am a junior. Is learning the dates of things in AP World useful for the test? I don't think you have to memorize the dates of like everything, but I think you should know kind of a general like timeline of when things happened, because you can use that for the DDQ and LEQ when it gives you specific time periods. So yeah. Bollywood song I've heard. I don't know like specific Bollywood songs, but the movie Lagan, I'd come back to that soundtrack sometimes. It's actually so good. Okay. And the question was, which disease was responsible for decimating large portions of indigenous populations in the Americas after contact with Europeans? And that is, of course, smallpox. How did the Black Death alter social structures in medieval European societies? We have like one more question. What's that? Wait, you can go to bed in like, how many more? We got 4 more minutes. You can go to bed in 4 minutes. Stay with us. Okay, I'm gonna answer. Okay, how did the Black Death alter social structures in medieval European societies? The answer was A. It increased bargaining power for surviving peasants and laborers due to workforce shortages. Okay, and finally the last question. Lock in for this one. These questions are probably easier than the actual exam because there's a lot of stimulus on the MCQ for the actual exam. But these are more kind of getting you like familiar with the content, I guess. No, you guys, the MCQ, I feel like the MCQ is pretty good. Like you just have to like read it. Sitting another minute challenge. Guys, you guys are not cooked. You're gonna do the cooking. What was? Oh wait, I gotta go. What was? It's been a few hours. What was the main difference between the Aztec and Inca civilizations in terms of governance? And the answer was C. The Aztecs were largely a city-state empire controlled by Tenochtitlan, while Incan Empire was much more of a united monarchy. Woo! We finished. And quiz. Let's see how you guys did. Oh wait, I guess I gotta like the quiz. Can you guys see how you did? I don't know. But yay! I'm gonna hand it over to Mr. Leonard so you guys can do a survey about this night. I'm so proud of all you, and I am so excited to see you all tomorrow.
I'm going to temporarily stop the chat. I'm going to turn it back on in just a moment. I'll tell you why. I in the chat am sending out a link to a survey. I'm gonna pause the chat for about 30 seconds for you guys to open that. This is a really, really helpful survey. I will say it really allows you to give us feedback, to give us a good chance to be able to reflect and then get better for the next few nights, because this is only night 1 of 5. And so I really appreciate y'all for being on here for the last few hours, for having a great first night with us. And please, please, please fill out that survey. It's super helpful for us to help you have a great next 4 nights. Make sure you're prepared. I'm gonna turn the chat back on. We have about 30 seconds left to send some final stuff. If you guys want to put that in the chat too. But I will also say this, guys, snap it up for our student hosts tonight, y'all. Miriam and Mia for doing a great job at presenting. The other really cool thing, guys, I put in the chat a little bit earlier. The other student hosts who didn't really see that much tonight, they were really busy in the chat. They answered over 228 questions, which is really, really cool. And so I appreciate you guys putting that in the chat. I really appreciate you guys for putting that in the Q&A too. Couple of final things, y'all. For one, there will be a recording that's available, all 3 hours of it. And so feel free to look at that online. The slides are also on Fiveable. One of the things that Hamza mentioned too, there's a lot of different stimulus-based questions. We're going to keep on working with these writing skills, but overall, really solid night tonight, guys. I'm excited to see you guys again tomorrow. Mia, Miriam, any other student hosts? Do you guys have any other things before we conclude for tonight?
Thank you for coming. You guys are gonna do great. Make sure to come tomorrow. We're gonna have a lot of fun. But yeah, thank you.
I just want to say that based on your SAQs and the amount of knowledge that you demonstrated here today, you're going in with more than I had, and I got a 5. So I think you're well on your way to achieving a good score.
All right, guys, we will see you back here tomorrow at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Have a great night, get some sleep. Have a great rest of your Friday. Thank you so much.